Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our live webinar today. And we are live broadcasting it after a few weeks because it was Ramadan and we're just taking some break. And we rescheduled our lives. So this is the Fast Tuesday lives. So we're going to be having lives from now on Thursday. So we're going to be having one lives each month from Neurodivergent Business Consortium. And we're going to be having another lives at the same time on the second week of each calendar month from the NB Business Club. So 2 lives. And on Thursday, we're going to be having other business lives from my commercial channels. And we will let you know in details. But today, we have a special episode to talk about, and we have a special guest. So you probably know our guest today. So we're going to be talking today unlocking opportunities, building inclusive workforce for neurodivergent talent. And our special guest, we're just going to be adding him to the stage, is Colin Lockwolby. Those you don't know Colin, I'm just giving a small introduction to him. He is doing his master's at the University of Wales, and he is passionate about neurodiversity. He himself is a neurodivergent, and he's a neurodivergent advisor working with policies, research in human resource, and a lot of other things. So today we have a special episode, and we're going to be talking about specifically a framework that Colin is researching and developing for inclusive hiring practice. So Colin, thank you very much for joining today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for the consortium for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's going to be a great conversation today to talk about neurodiversity as well as inclusive hiring practice, and you know that neurodivergent people are normally, I would say, people or businesses, they don't want to hire us. Few struggles, and we are overcoming those barriers because some of the good things has happened last couple of years in Richard Branson and a lot of other people. They became neurodiversity or autism or dyslexia or other things intend to be a good thing for workplace if they hire someone like me, like you, or like other neurodivergent people. But still, there are misconceptions. There are a lot of other things we need to tackle. There isn't any framework. So thank you very much for researching and developing your 8R framework. And can you please give a overview of specifically who you are and what you do to our audience for them to understand your work and you better?
So I developed. So what happened was basically I developed this this framework whilst I was at the University of Oxford, working as the Neurodiversity advisor for 3 months. And what we looked into, I was with the university for a good 5 years, doing a slightly different role, a clinical role. And I remember knocking on the HR, my colleague's door, and said, it was actually at the time when I was having slight difficulties at work myself, with nuances, with the unwritten rules that we all have. And my colleague eventually said, well, actually, we've got this research type of grant. We'd like to have a look at how we can look at job descriptions and personal specifications, really in a neurodivergent autistic approach, so we can get more people into the workforce that, at the time it was Nuffield Department of Medicine, so that's the biggest department in the whole of the university. And my colleague Elena McPhilbin, she turned around and said, I want to see if we can make this better. Have a look at these job descriptions and specifications and see what you can do to make it more neurodivergent friendly, so we get individuals coming in from that cohort. Within that time, I thought, there's something here. There's something here about this. And I kind of looked at the GDPR type of rules surrounding consent, all these bits and pieces as well. I thought, hold up, there's a framework here. I think if we look at reflecting and reviewing and all these different R's that I put into the framework, that actually we can all come together and go, when we reflect and when we review, it could be simply me reviewing it first, which is what I was doing. Then I would take it to the team for a reflection. Then I would reprocess again, because no idea is a bad idea. No. And it might be a case that maybe we can't do this because of money constraints, or maybe we can't do this because of different laws, different policies, different way they do things. So I then looked at that whole thing and thought, right, I'm going to create a framework that I can take anywhere in HR, in your daily job, but more in a HR role, which is what I was thinking of. And then I sat there and thought, if I can do this anywhere, this could be a good framework to use. And from my standpoint, when I wrote this, it was more of a complementary tool to help neurodivergent individuals and hiring managers and anybody in the workplace at all to say, actually, maybe we need to give this a go. Now, obviously, this hasn't been trialled yet, so I'm hoping in the next couple of years, when my dissertation comes, I will be putting this out to trial in some way, shape or form to get that feedback, not just from my neurodivergent and disabled colleagues, but from the general populace.
Thank you, Colin. So to everyone, today, Colin will have a small presentation, 10 minutes, to talk about his framework. And later, we will dive into more in detailed discussion about hiring practices and all other things, inclusivity and all other things. So I will share my screen, Colin.
Yeah.
And
that's brilliant. If you could go to slide 2.
Yes. So just give me 1 second. I just prepared that. And so Colin is going to be discussing about his framework now. And you can see his framework and slide 2.
Slide 2. So obviously, this is what we're going to be hopefully discussing. I mean, and it's a first stage of employability here. So I'm not saying everybody go away and do it. I'm just saying, what are we looking at here when we're looking at job descriptions and personal specifications and getting neurodivergent and non-neurodivergent leaders on board? I can have the next slide, please. So, when we're looking at that, we're looking at, what words mean and how quickly something can be, misinterpreted within even an interview or within a way of worry for the autistic individual. So, for example, here I said the word quickly. The ability to learn ideas and concepts quickly could be something on a job description. And you're not saying you can't do it quickly, you're having a slower cognition rate. But then on the flip side, you could have, as I said here, excellent recall ability. So although you're slower at the start, everybody is, but you might be slower than most, as an individual, the actual ability, they could be possibly ignoring or looking at that as a disadvantage instead of an advantage. That actually, after you've got, as I said there, that eureka moment, I've got it, brilliant. That will stay in the brain and you can then recall on that when others may have forgotten, but you've still got it in your head. Next slide, please. Yep. So again, here with the structure and function of how the actual forms and the job description, personal specifications are made. Again, you must be flexible and adaptable in your approach. Like I've said there, instead of saying a willingness to, as soon as you put you will be, you're straight on that negative chart. You really are. If I said, I've got a willingness to do that, of course I have. I can be adaptable. And as I said, right at the bottom here, and we'll send the slides out as well, won't we, Shah? So that people can hopefully have a look on that people need to explain and ask what to do. And as you can see in this example, and my thanks go to Oxford University HR team for this was a very old job role. And as you can see on the left here, all of the words being very formulaic and trying to cut off different areas to actually we don't need half of that information. Whereas if you look at the right hand side, which is my right, might be your left chart, what I've done with the roles and responsibilities and punching out them bullet points so that it's a lot more clearer. And if you compare and contrast, will you go for the left hand side or will you go for the right hand side one? Within that within the job description and how we actually write them, it'll be nice to see actually, Shah, how many people would actually go, I'd go for the bullet point one because it's clearer, it's giving me the information I need, and I'm more likely to put an application form in. And this was done via the 8 stages of our approaches on the next slide, Shah. So what I did there is I reviewed the actual job description that you saw previously. I rewrote it the way I did on the left-hand side, partly wrote it like that. Then I reflected on, can I reduce the words further? Then we have to recognize that not everything will be right. Certain things you have to keep in there due to the job role. And it's okay not to get everything right. That's how we learn. Then we recommend, so I would recommend it to you, Shah, or a team of professionals and say, what do you think of this? Let's all get round the room. Let's discuss it. So then on my second reflection, which you see is point 6, I'm then going away and reflecting on the language, the structure, does it make sense? What are everybody else's input? Because everything, it's all valid. Then, once I got everything in there that people have suggested, I might have changed something. I might have changed the paper. I might have put the font a bit different. You name it, I would look at that. Get rid of all the waffle, make it nice and succinct to, this is what you need. Can you do this? Not, for example, you must have the ability to do. Well, I already know I've got the ability. Otherwise, I wouldn't be going for the job role. So having something like that in a job description is, in my humble opinion, that's what I would call a little bit of waffle. I don't need, you must have the ability to reserve information for the director. I already know I've got that ability, so take that away and then just reservations for the director or reservations for the team. So straight away you're thinking reservations, right? What type? Must be able to reserve different appointments for the team. Boom. Then I report back on completion to say this is what I've done, and logically the results in this framework, it would have been to post it to LinkedIn, to get it job ready and go. Sometimes, if I change that result could be I've got the first interview. Yeah. When we look at how we can help employers to get neurodivergent people into jobs. Again, you will see here that I've deliberately cross-referenced autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, calcula, graphia. And the reason why I haven't put this is because personally, I don't like the word this because it's very negative and in my opinion, it's slightly disabling. Yeah, we want to enable people. So I've got a challenge with dyslexia. I can overcome that by this, and this. The same with mental health. We see a lot of crossover with mental health and issues understanding, getting the cognition right. If we go to the next slide. And again, here with the accessibility for the employers, looking at the lighting, the temperature, the sounds, you'll see again there's a lot of crossover there. Sure. And that's because it's all interrelated. It's the whole neurodivergent space here, that really, really helps that employer. So again, for example, how many people think of not just maybe doing the questions beforehand, which we know it's slowly coming into practice now, that everybody gives you the questions beforehand. And that's for everybody across the board, not just neurodivergent individuals. So you're all on that playing field. The same as I'm quite visual. So I like presentations on all the different areas that can help people. The same as when you're looking at the interview side, as I said there, from Simon Berry et al., a author who does a lot on autism and neurodiversity, and talks about them cultural challenges and the language differences that many individuals have, not only when interviewing, but their day-to-day lifestyle. Maybe coming over from Bangladesh or Kenya or Iraq or Iran, not knowing that language or knowing limited language, and trying to get over that hurdle of what does this mean? I'm sure you've had, Char, certain phrases in English that don't translate in Bangladeshi or Kenya or Nigeria or Iraq, and you're thinking, what's something that's similar to that word that could mean the same? Could we have the next slide, please? And again, with the reasonable adjustment side, that again we're finding it's tough. It's really, really tough for that reasonable adjustments, because again, although it's meant to be given, I'd like a day where reasonable adjustments are just the norm. That we don't have that point of now we're going to have to think about changing the time. Now we're going to have to thinking about giving more time for this person, giving X done, doing X, doing this, doing that, changing the environment or what have you. And like I said there, from Flowers, don't overlook that candidate who has potential due to processing and social processing. And a lot of us like to have individuals employed that are very like us. It's that likability factor, that's similar to who I am as a person. And sometimes we have to actually come outside that comfort zone and go, actually, this person's really, really good due to this, all these other attributes, hyper focused on how to do this, knowing what they need to do. And I think as well, as we said there, language really does matter. It really does matter to how you can change the whole ethos of your business, the way your department is structured. And within this, I found again, when I was doing that little bit of research, that duplication, too many words in there that that are just, it's too long a question, or it's that double-sided question that you're thinking, oh gosh, I've got to remember that part and that part in a question. You can't do that. I'd be very surprised if people could remember both questions, the same as we said here, that scenario and that dread of you've 3 things to do, 5 things to do, what would you do? Yeah. And again, it's that point of we're asking to slow down that cognition, slow down that 2-part question, or that what 3 to 5 things would you do in order. It's not trying to trick you. That they're wanting to find that point of your understanding and how you would do that job role. And as it says here, you know, different people react in different ways. You know, I'm different to Shah, Shah's different to the next person. Understand what motivates and engages that neurodiverse employee. Because if you get to know what motivates them and helps them along that way, you're going to get more out of them. Here you will see, this is a quote that I made that's actually in this book from Thompson and Guberman Keel regarding how I see we can all work together. And then, as I says here, if all neurotypical and neurodiverse individuals, clear of minds, make a connection in a calm way with each other by communicating in a collaborative way in the spirit of cooperation, whereby both individuals understand in the correct content in context, we can both coexist. And I think, Shah, you know, for me, my framework is that takeaway, but also that last quote is a big takeaway, because it's a lot of the times, and I can only speak from my own experience, half the time it's normally a situational thing, and it's normally contextual, and I'm more annoyed at myself than anybody else, you know. And that point of, you know, you may frown, you may but how many people actually sit there and ask you, are you frustrated, or are you thinking, or are you contemplating what the task might be? Or, you know, you may look, you know, when you get that annoyed child, that frustrated, it's frustration, or it's something else there that has triggered that context and that concept for you to then go, I really need to think about this. And it's the same with job descriptions. They need to think about how they can cut down a lot of because half of it we actually don't need. We just need to know, what can you bring to the company and how can you achieve that goal? And I was listening to the Neurodiversity Celebration Week, Shah, and it was with Dr. Tiffany Jameson, Bakanowski, on person-centered management and neuro-inclusion. And they made a really, really good point on how do we build trust with employers? How do we build trust and make things a success? And straight away they said things like, be vulnerable, be open, be authentic, learn from failures, because failures can become successes. There's no question is a bad question. And it's acknowledging that other people may see things differently. And that's okay, Shah.
Mm-hmm. So, Colin, thank you very much for your presentation. It was a great presentation, and we understood how your framework will work. But you know, a few things that we wanted to talk today, specifically inclusive hiring practices, and how do you get the interview done and then hire them to start working. with my experiences, what I have seen so far, when you make an application and if you disclose your disability, there are less chances for the employer to call you for an interview. That's one thing that I have suffered.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as well as I also know from talking to many individuals, like, okay, if you disclose your disability and then you apply, it's less chances for you to hire. You know this current landscape with the government. They are cutting up all the benefits from PIP
Yes.
and all the things for
Yeah.
neurodivergent
Yeah.
people. They are
Yeah.
thinking, okay, we need to hire more people. They need to go back to workplace. But you know, you cannot go to the workplace if someone is hiring you. At the upfront, when you apply for a place, you're going to be, move up, they're going to be they're going to be not considering your application. So then, how come you engage with the workplace to work? So this one thing that we need
Yeah.
to talk about. You know, this.
Yeah. I mean, I think looking at that, straight away, by law and by the Equality Act, you know, and if you disclose that you have a disability, and under the 2-tick scheme, they have to give you an interview by right. If you meet, and this is a key point, if you meet the minimum criteria, the same as I've always personally disclosed I'm autistic, because I remember a lovely lady who works for the government, and she's part of the an autism group she set up of civil servants within the UK government, and it was the pandemic, and she said, "I'm not here to speak about health," because she was part of the health team anyway. "I'm here to speak about neurodiversity," and she turned around and said, "I tell people that I am neurodivergent. Some people will disagree with me, others don't. And the reason why I do that is because you're either with me or you're not with me. My neurodivergence should have absolutely nothing to do with whether or not I can do that job.
Mhm.
Yes, there will need to be adjustments.
But still, there are legislation out there. But
Yeah.
when you considering that, okay, someone will consider there's legislation for you. If you think that you are being missed,
Yes.
represented, or you are not being selected,
Yeah.
I talk to people, and I have also experienced. At the end, they will say, you do not fulfill the initial requirements. Okay, that the company should or the right candidate for these right jobs.
And
So
you know what?
how can you overcome this barrier? Because an employer can easily say you did not qualify for this post. Okay, how can you minimize these gaps? Because what I have suffered and I have seen that there is a huge gap selecting a candidate and then going through with the process. So there are gaps that there isn't that many neurodivergent HR manager or neurodivergent HR people to
Yeah,
interview neurodivergent person. If you
which
are
is
a
true.
neurodivergent and you do not have a hiring manager, they understand neurodiversity,
Yeah,
then even if you are
yeah,
selected at the beginning, at the end, they're going to be saying, okay, if I hire this person, I have to have extra, taking care of them. I don't want it to go into that hassle. So either way,
absolutely.
I just exclude their CVs from the interview process or from selecting them. How can we minimize these gaps?
Right. So to start with, just looking at what colleagues said in the Neurodiversity Celebration Week, and something that is really, really important is, number one, that the job description at the first point needs to be decluttered. Secondly, it needs the point of what are you looking for as an employer, not what I think you're looking for. Because you imagine if you've got a really long line of you must be able to assist with let's say appointments and scheduling for the director, and make sure that this is done for the director in a timely manner. Are you gonna remember all of that? No, you're probably not. So you cut that down. That's the first point. Then you look for an example. I like using the star. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but if you can use a situation that you've been in, the task that you've had, the action that you did, and what the result was, be it good or bad, because you can still say, if it was slightly negative, actually, due to this, I then went away and reflected on this, and found a better strategy to do X, Y, Z. I then presented this to the team. They thought it was a really good idea, and then decided to adopt it for everybody. Then that's a great way to go. One thing I do say though is sometimes they put in a lot of duplication of examples. Like, for example, a big one that I use, collaborate and cooperate. It's relatively the same thing. Yeah, I'm collaborating with you on this. I'm also cooperating with you on the questions, this, that, and the other. But why do I need to show it twice? It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resource. It's a waste of money. It's all these wasteful things that actually the employer can get from one question. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you said to me, reflecting back, how can we get over them barriers? Yeah. You're completely right that even now, 50% of employers have physically said we do not want to employ neurodivergent, or more importantly, out of that autistic individuals, not just forget the disabled bit, the autistic bit, 1 in 3, the disabled bit, including dyspraxia, dyslexia, 1 in 5, mm-hmm. And neurotypicals or normal, define normal, you can't, 1 in 8. You know, so from just an autistic standpoint, you're on a, how am I meant to get over that? If you've got autism with ADHD with all the intersects on top of that, you're then going, oh my God, I've got an even lower chance potentially. How can we overcome that? Awareness, training, getting somebody in that panel who is neurodivergent or disabled, making it a preference that there is somebody. It doesn't have to be, you know, a manager. It could be, you know, the pot washer in the kitchen. Why is he? He's pot washer and he's neurodivergent. He knows what the system's like as well, just as much as us. He might not know how to cook the food or what have you, but he can put his spin on that interview process. And that individual, 9 times out of 10, will think of something that others don't think of. And you'll be sitting there going, that was a really good question to that answer that we didn't think of as panel members. You've just completely blew it up in a different way and gave us more to think of. And maybe actually they need to also change the way that they do the interviews.
I agree with you, Colin, but here is the chicken or egg scenario.
Of course it is. Yeah.
The government, they are prioritizing for neurodivergent people or any disabled people to return to work. That's the first scenario now. They're cutting all the benefits. That's the second one. Third one, there isn't anything awareness thingy for the employer, for the employee. So if you think about, okay, we need more awareness. Is there more awareness going on from the government? No, they're not investing enough to train.
And this is absolutely. And, I think the way that they have looked at this, and I've got to be very careful because it is the government, is that I agree that individuals do need to go and try and get work if they can. And I know a lot of individuals that are neurodivergent do want to work, 100%. They don't want to sit on their laurels and do. However, the government are actually doing it wrong because they're cutting from the most vulnerable in society instead of empowering them and lifting them up to achieve that. That needs more investment. Now, it does need to be a tailored approach because everybody is different. However, just cutting willy-nilly because we can isn't the answer to the amount of times I've said, I need to get to somewhere because I've got a mobility issue as well. Mm-hmm. Oh no, we can't pay your expenses to that interview. And then I have to deny that interview because I can't get there. The government, you're failing. You need to actually physically help people if they've got an interview, if they've got further ahead, and you can see them going for it, actually go, well done. We're proud that you've got that far. We know you're going to be up against a lot of well-read people and people that know the job. However, that does not diminish your output, your skills, the way you are as an individual, and we will help you succeed by giving you money to go to the interview, even if it means we'll pay for the taxi to get you there and back. We'll make sure that everything is there for you. The same as access to work. A lot of employers, as soon as they see neurodivergent equals cost, equals risk, equals wrong. This whole setup I've got here was done by access to work.
Yes, but it's still.
And I was lucky.
Yes, but you are one of the luckiest one that you got it from the access to work. There are millions of people.
Yeah.
Here. Their application are with access to work. I'm lucky that I got access to work. Yeah. I'm not lucky that I did not get PIP. So I had a PIP interview a couple of weeks back, and they gave me 0 in every places. Okay, because I'm not qualifying for PIP. So they don't consider me as a disabled person, or they don't consider me as thinking like when you fill up the application form, even
Yeah.
if you work for PEEP or if you work for Access to Work or if you apply for a job, there isn't
Yeah.
like your framework. There isn't like a layout. This is actually for neurodivergent people.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
actually for disabled people.
And you're dead right. And a colleague of mine, Jennifer Curtin over at the University of Liverpool, she's done a neurodivergent, an autistic type of form to help practitioners in GPs and a lot of people have said, why can't we have this type of form that actually guides us on what they're wanting us to show on PIP? Again, it's too waffly. What are you trying to get? And a colleague of mine went, your worst case scenario ever, then triple it. And I'm, what do you mean? Well, they might see you on a really good day, but that's not reality. You know, at your worst, what do you need help with? What do you, and another thing that I find a bit annoying with PIP, yeah, is that it's the here and now. No, look at my life from day one. See what it's been like. Then make a judgment on. You can't just surely say, what's it like now? Are you going to improve? No, I'm neurodivergent. I'm never going to improve. I'm not going to suddenly not be neurodivergent. It's a lifelong condition for a reason. It's in the title, lifelong. Now, if I can get the right support, the right money, the right people behind me, yeah, I can succeed in work. Yeah, I can succeed in this. But do you not think that getting up today was a problem for me? Yeah, because I've got mobility issues. It was a big problem. You know, do you not? Do they not think that? You know, 1 minute my brain is okay, and the next minute I'm worried
I
about my
understand
mind
this,
or
Paul.
my cognition is going. And this is what, you know, the government need to actively change their policy again and say, actually, we got it wrong. And actually say to the public, we got it wrong.
Yes, but
We
it's
are
not going
going
to
to
happen, isn't it?
help you. Of
Because
course, it's not going to happen.
they are, you know, Colin, they are talking about legislation. They are talking about a lot of different things. But
Yeah,
actually, who going to be tied or not? They are talking
yeah,
about different things. They're reducing benefits. The framework they're using to level it down for PEEP and all other things, it's not the right one. They're doing it for maybe over 50 years now, or maybe more than that. I don't have the right date when they have started the DLA or PIP.
I
But
think it was about
I think,
30, I think it was about 13, 14 years ago.
yes, maybe 40 years ago. But the framework, they have leveled it down, is not right for us. So,
No,
and
no,
the most of the new division people,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
they are,
Go on, go on.
so most of the new division people, they are very much truthful. Okay.
Yeah,
And they
absolutely,
will say,
absolutely.
they will say, I can do this today, tomorrow I can't. So what the PEEP practitioner, what they will do, they will write down he can. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
he can. So in that, I had a PEEP interview 10, 15 years back in 2015, I think,
yeah.
and I scored 0. And this time as well, I scored 0. Why? Because everything I can do, I can do, I can do. I know that I need to tell them I can't do, but that's the lying, isn't it? Some days I can, some days I can't. So
What
I
what
don't.
you what you've got to do with that, right? What you've got to do with that is you've got to look at it on a point of they're looking for how many days can he do it, right? Now, because it's variable, the point is I can't answer that question because 1 minute I'm okay, half an hour later I might not be. I might be stressed for something, like cooking a meal, or stressed about my money worries, or stressed about this, that, and the other. So asking me to quantify how many days, more than half, nearly every day, I'm worried about, is this right? Have I interpreted your body language right? Have I wrote this email correctly without upsetting people? Have I said something that to me is completely direct and honest, but to you, you're thinking, oh, don't ever say that, good God. You know, where we'll go, but that's the truth. Oh, no, you can't say that. Well, why not? It's the truth. Oh, no, 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 no. People won't like that. Well, why won't people not like that? Because they don't want to give you that money. They're trying every single way not to charge.
Mm-hmm.
I would then go back, I would appeal it, right, and go, actually, it's not zero. It's also the way it's written on the forms. They write it in a neurotypical way, not a neurodivergent way. Back inventory for depression, it's neurotypical. It's not neurodivergent. All these different indicators are done by neurotypical people. Double empathy that Damien Milton discusses, bang on the money. My framework, I think, potentially is bang on the money because we're asking you to reflect and review what actually is he like? What evidence, medical, friends, family, colleagues, if they're all saying the same thing, right? Are you telling me that they're wrong? Are you telling me that?
Still,
No, but you see what I mean? This is the problem with the government. They see one yes. If that's it, you can do everything. Hold it. I've got 8 professionals and my doctors and my colleagues and me all saying this is what he's like. This is how it manifests. This is what he's like on a day-to-day, hour by hour, minute by minute basis. They all can't be wrong.
Yes, but totally, I totally agree with you what you're saying. Before I jump to my next question, I just wanted to thank you, all the viewers that are watching this live webinar.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Shah Siddiqui from Neurodivergent Business Consortium, and I have Colin Lawworthy, and we are talking about inclusive hiring practices and the 8R framework. So, Colin, thank you very much for joining today's live webinar. And if you wanted to ask us any question, please feel free to ask us through the comment box. Otherwise, we're going to be continue our conversation, and we will bring Colin in the future dates as well to talk about it. So, Colin, my next question to you would be, I understand there is a struggle. There is a government, they don't want it to pay, or they wanted us to sustain that way we want, because they are measuring us with one framework for everyone. So they're going to be measuring neurodivergent people, they're going to be measuring autistic people, they're going to be measuring dyslexia, apraxia, and all of the people, disabled people with same framework. That will never work. So in that aspect, when employer or maybe government, they are assessing you specifically, Are there anything that you can propose in relation with your 8R framework?
I mean, for me, I would say, look at that framework, and I would say, yes, we have to assess on individual basis, because that's the only way we can assess that. I would certainly say, before you start saying no, really look at what is that individual's challenges. What are they actually having issues, challenges, problems with? Review it with a fine-tooth comb. I would actually say, think more about that lived experience over the criteria, because actually you know you better than they know you. All they've got it on is a bit of paper saying, this is what we think. That paper, we know, can be flawed, can be biased, and can be not fit by that sample, that cohort of individuals. I would say definitely you have to rewrite the questioning surrounding that. I hope the government are listening when lots of individuals say, we need to get the best out of us. You need to provide us with the correct money, provide us with the correct support, get to the grips of what you are trying to get us to say, not trip us up, although it's unintentional, I'm sure, but you're inadvertently tripping us up with big words and making it so long that you think we're going to give up. We won't give up. We will continue fighting and fighting and fighting, because you also need to recognize within that lived experience actually does usurp a lot of your questions, because the people that surrounding you are the people that know you and that can actually say, is that evidence that you've got on your screen really accurate and relational to the person you see right now today? And if the answer is no, you advise and recommend that they have PIP, that they have.
Thank you, Colin, for our conversation today and presenting your 8R framework. We know that the legislation has to be changed, and as well as the settings of recognizing individual strengths and weaknesses has to be changed. Because when you talk about employing someone and adding right systems or adding right work environment for them, it's necessary for you to contribute greatly. So we are nearly end of our session today, Colin. Thank you very much for you and joining us with your framework. And I hope the listener, the viewers, they will get some valuable lessons from today. So the last 1 minute, do you want to add anything else to the viewers?
For me, again, it's my main framework, which is, and my main quote, which is, we need to come together. We need to have that clear mind. We need to make that connection, and we need to do it collaboratively. Because if you do it collaboratively with the individuals that are facing that disparity or facing that I guess at times it could be class as unconscious bias in some respects. That with the right content of what we as a society and we as neurodivergent disabled people are feeling, hearing, evidencing through so much research, Sharp and colleagues that are on the call, so much research out there, then we can actually get this right. We just need the chance to show the government and everybody else in employment, in jobs, with the right areas. And it doesn't cost a lot. It costs minimal, because the government are there to help you get into work, even access to work, to pay for all of the things to make you a success.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you very much. We are just nearly end of our session. And thank you for joining today. And thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you
watching.
very much, guys. And thank you, Sharp.
Yes. So we're going to be welcome you with another episode on 3rd. So on the 3rd of this April, we are going to be talking to Token Diversity, and we're going to be sharing their work. Please join the live webinar on 3rd of April at the same time. And we will have more webinar from this month. If you go and see our pages, you will see all the webinars there, from software development to marketing, and as well as talking about neurodiversity, disability, and all of those things. So thank you, everyone, for joining today's live webinar. Thank you, Colin. And bye-bye for today. And I will welcome you again in another live. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.